Welcome to the Partners Podcast, where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to entrepreneurs who are relentlessly building real, profitable companies. Join us as we ask them the hard questions so you can take away the mindset, strategy, and tactics that launch them to success. Welcome to another episode of the Partners Podcast, joined today by one of my good friends, Hande of Space Coast Media Solutions. You've had your ups and downs. I've seen you around on the Facebook real estate videography groups. I've seen you, come to me with some personal things. Tell me about your journey. How did you get started, and where are you now?
I got started back in 2016, 2017. I went to one of my friends and I asked him, I said, well, if you were to do one thing right now that no one else is doing, what would it be? And this was when drones were starting to get hyped up. And he said, I go get a drone and start a business with that. And then my intentions with that were to actually go to churches and take pictures of their campuses, kind of like just do it for free. I didn't really have too much of a game plan at that time, but then someone in my church who was a realtor said that they had a big property, and I think I did photos for like $25. That was like my first job.
That's so funny. That's how my business partner got started at Aerial Canvas. He bought a drone at first to do drone stuff with, and he was going to go into like filming agriculture or something with like a big drone. And then he actually moved out to California and lost his job because the company just didn't work out. He was working at this company called eHang, Chinese drone company, trying to compete with DJI that just wasn't quite there. And his landlord at the time, her dad was a real estate agent, and he's like, can you shoot one of my properties with your drone or something?
Yeah.
And then the rest is like a domino effect, right? Once you get into real estate, you get more and more business.
Once I got into the more mainstream working with realtors, I was able to charge like $300 a pop for photos. So too bad we can't do that anymore. But just really that's what kind of started me off. And then I worked with a buddy of mine out of Orlando. He and I teamed up as I did drone pictures for him and drone video while he did, everything as far as interior photography, exterior photography. And then I found out I was paying him like $2,000. I was only keeping maybe 600. I was like, well, this is a problem. So
what are good margins to keep? Like, what's realistic, right? You still got to pay your team out half decent, but like, I have a rule of thumb, but what's your rule of thumb when it comes to paying out your contractors or your team?
I'm honestly, it's like a percentage. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, my rule of thumb is you got to keep cost of goods under 50%. If you want to scale. Like, if you're,
I have a saying. I have a saying. I don't know if I would necessarily say this to an employee, but if I incur the risk, I usually get the higher pay. But I would say anywhere from 40 to 50%. It's just, it ranges based on skill, I would say. But
I would say that's generous. Like I budget 50%, including the editing. If they're not doing the editing, I'm budgeting 1/3, and then the other 1/6 is going towards the editing to get to the 50.
Yep. Yeah, that's about what I would do.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the only way. Like, you're taking on a lot of the effort when it comes to getting the clients, building the website, building the brand, organizing the shoot, logistics, making sure that the client's happy, ensuring the whole shebang. And
you got to keep the momentum rolling.
So you've gone through a few mindset shifts. What would you say, like, how have you evolved in the last couple years? Like, what were some of these big like milestones where like something clicked for you? What was the first one? What was like the first thing that clicked for you that got you to that next level?
I would say my eagerness to be able to approach people regarding my services. It was like a drug. As soon as people started saying yes and I started getting more busier, schedule kept getting, fuller and fuller as weeks went on. Um, that was the incentive to keep going. That was the mindset to continue to reach out, you know, whether it was email, calling, texting. Um, and really that was really what I did. The mindset also now is trying to build something that lasts and not just dependent on one photographer, one schedule. So I'm still a solo um, photographer, but here pretty soon, since I've kind of taken a step back and gone, okay, this isn't going to bring any longevity to my business or myself or even my family for that matter. So now I'm taking the, you know, a step back to build it more organically as well as do the right things as being a CEO or the boss man or whatever you want to call it
And
to
we
get the right.
concluded that's sales. You got to get more
Yeah, the
deals.
sales. Exactly. You got to get behind the phone. You got to get, you got to continue to uh, drill for more jobs. Right. So that's really what my mindset shift was when I first started. It was really seeing who was interested. Once I got busy, I kind of let go of, you know, really reaching out and social media and all that. Like right now, I would say my biggest focus right now is social media, continuing to reach out to people via DMs, and of course, cold calling. So
Yeah, cold calling's not for everyone.
no,
How
I
do
hate
you
it.
approach cold calling? You hate it? I love it.
Uh,
Why do you hate it? And
I
when?
hate it because you don't know what's going to happen. And I mean, be honest with you, I've never had a bad cold call.
Yeah.
The only time I've had a bad cold call is one time I called this guy. I don't know why he answered, but I said, "Hey, my name is Aaron with Space Coast Media Solutions." He's like, "Hey, man, I'm actually in a funeral right now." I'm like, okay. So he hung up and I texted him. But like, that's like the only worst call I've ever had. It made me feel awkward. But
So what are you scared of? What do you hate? Like it sounds like you're good at like if you're good at something,
yeah,
you
no,
should.
it's the I heard you talk about this. If you're not doing something, you're denying yourself the ability to grow. I forget exactly what you said, but something to that effect.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I think it's actually a lot easier for me to talk to people. I'm very personable. I just sometimes I will keep talking and I
Yeah.
don't let people kind of explain the situation and actually let them kind of tell me like
That's
what
something you're
how I can
aware
help
of,
them.
so that's something you
Yeah,
can
no,
overcome,
I
right?
am. I am. I've actually become a lot more aware of that through your teachings through ACRE Partner.
I appreciate that. Our
Hmm.
goal is for me to become a better human being in the process as well. Because
Right. Yeah. It's
I'm
not.
just like you, dude. I love to add my 2 cents, and I love to go on my tangents. So I get
Yeah.
it. And part of you know learning is the best way to learn is to teach, and that's what's the beauty of growing a team. Like when you as you grow your team. You'll be able to be in a position to be the teacher to remind yourself of
Yeah.
what needs to be done to make the project go well and the business keep growing. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced in the last couple years? And I mean, I think it's okay to be vulnerable because I think from what I've seen on social, everyone's at least the bulk of the people are putting out a front on like how successful
Oh
they
yeah.
are. And
Yeah.
then if I told you behind the scenes, like all these agency owners that are celebrating their wins in our Alliance Wins channels, 70K here, I did
Hmm.
30K this month, or like something awesome. There's a lot of shit behind the scenes that they're not talking about,
Oh yeah.
whether it's personal or it's related to, their team not doing X, Y, and Z. They're still going through it, and so I think it's okay to be vulnerable here. What shit have you had to go through to make it and to keep making it?
Yeah. Just recently, through these past 2 years, have been probably one of the most difficult um, challenges that I've ever had to go through. Last year, my dad was diagnosed um, with ALS, and it was something to where I wanted to be around more with my dad because I knew he was going to die. If anyone out there doesn't know what ALS is, it's basically a neurological disease that basically dissolves all muscle and then it eventually leads to the heart and you die. It's 100% fatal. There's no cure for it. We don't know why it happens. It just happens. So last year, I was still in business, but mentally, I was not. Mentally, I was just trying to enjoy as much as I could with my dad and my mom and be there mostly for my mom because this was not her first time going through this, but her second time because her own father died of the same disease when I was younger. So, very horrifying to know that and to go through that twice is just just terrible. So not only did I go through that, but business wasn't really focused on the more important things like drumming up business, staying in touch with clients. I kind of just went, yeah, I'm not really focusing on business. I'm focusing on family, and I think it ended up costing me close to about 100K. So that hit hard. um,
Yeah, that's wild.
and then
And
to start, well, no, and it gets worse. To start 2024, I had a negative $1,000 in my bank account. So after all of not working for, because my dad passed away about 5 months ago in November of 2023, I was out of work. So just going up to Michigan, family funeral, that kind of thing, and then real estate not being as what do you call it busy as it normally is during the summer. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to stay afloat, and that was reality. So that's when I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, man, I gotta shift some things around, or I'm not gonna make it." And I really appreciate you kind of understanding my situation and working with me. So, but
yeah, for sure.
from there on, we're definitely making some big improvements.
Yeah, it's life happens, and
Yep.
I think it's amazing what you've been able to do in terms of persevere. You could have gone down a darker path of being upset with life, but you chose to rise up and like do what you have to do to get the business back on track. And
Yeah.
so, super proud of you there. What do you think you had to shift on the mindset side to get over that and to actually be able to refocus on your business? Because I don't know, most people, some of them might be out for an entire year, right? After that shit
Yeah.
happens, and you were out for a minute, a good minute.
Yeah.
What do you have to shift to get over something like that or to move forward?
Um, I think part of it was my faith in God. Um, and then the other part was just realizing, the responsibilities I had as a husband and as a business owner. And, I don't know. I believe in being a legacy maker. That doesn't mean that everyone in the world is going to know you, but I want to make an impact for not only for my wife, but my kids when I have kids and make sure that, they know that with hard work, you can achieve anything. So yeah, just looking in the mirror, I just told myself like, look, either I quit, go work, a 9 to 5 job that I'm probably going to hate myself doing, or I figure it out and I start asking around and stopped acting like I know everything. And that was probably part of it. It was acting like I knew everything and acting like everything was just fine when the bank account said otherwise. So, but yeah, that was the the ultimate mind shift was just going, okay, let's actually reach out to people in the industry. I had seen your stuff for probably over a year or so. Um, and so, yeah, I just reached out to you and yeah, that really started a huge mind shift. And, I'm not there yet. I think it's a story, you're going to, get better and better as years go on. It's never going to end. You're never going to stop learning.
You feel it though, right? Like when you
Oh yeah.
start investing in yourself, when you start
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I I can do more. the business deserves more, my family deserves more. Everything
Mm-hmm.
starts falling into place, and like you almost get pulled forward. It is kind of how
Yep.
I felt in
Yeah,
times
definitely.
where I've chosen to take a leap of faith and invest in someone to bring onto my team, or hire a mentor to get me through a certain aspect of my business, or just an advisor. So when it comes to like now, like how are you feeling with all of this? Like where do you see business going? Like how was business this month, and where do you see business continuing to trend towards?
Um, as far as like money wise, or as far as like team wise, or both?
You can talk about money, but like just the general feeling of like where you're at with your business and where you're planning to take things. I think last time we talked, we
Yeah.
revisited a lot of opportunities just right in front of you. I
Mm-hmm.
know you have had a busy week shooting this week. Um,
Mm-hmm.
have you had a chance to like see the impact of some of those um, strategies like being implemented quite yet? Or
Yeah. Really, I find that my sweet spot, kind of just going into what I find is working for me. I'm not saying this is the strategy for everyone, but you know, helping realtors with their branding through video. I'm pretty talented at that. I would say I'm not the best, but I know how to convey a an edit, and also be able to shoot some really good visuals. But as far as business this month, kicking it, man. We're really I think we've tripled from last month, so that's that's a good thing. But I think that was also in part of just the first quarter being a little bit subpar. So,
yeah.
but
Something I
before,
noticed is like whenever you put in effort, the result comes
yeah,
not the immediate like week after or month after, but like 2 months later. I remember you went on like a cold call spree, right, for a second, and then you stopped last month, but then you
yeah,
saw all the business come a month later.
yep.
Do you feel like that work that you did in February resulted in
Oh yeah,
April?
absolutely. I had probably I would say about 7 or 8 of those calls turn into actual business relationships. Um,
Boom.
so
And that's
now
just
the
trusting the process, right? Because you fell out of the process for a minute.
yeah, I
Like
did. Well, I
you crushed it in February. Then I'm like,
yeah,
what'd you do in March? You're like, I didn't do much. And then all of a
mhm,
sudden, all the work you did in February,
yep,
amounted to like that
yep.
surplus you created in April.
Well, not only that, but we've also been able to adapt a lot of the growth chat strategies, um, and that has helped a lot as well. So while I'm working, I have a VA just working on just getting realtors looking at our work either on Instagram or on our website. Yeah, so we're just continually just drilling every single day, making sure that people can have the opportunity to see what we can do for them. If they say no, that's fine, but at least we're doing our part to just reach out and see how we can help a real realtor stand out.
Yeah, and I love that you're so much more comfortable with that no, because I think we all fear rejection in the beginning. And the saying
Yeah.
that you were referencing is the worst thing that can happen to you if you choose to go out there, try your hand at sales is they're going to say no. They're going to say, fuck off. Don't call me. They're going to say, take me
Right.
off your list.
Mm-hmm.
They might be rude to you. They might, talk shit. That's like the worst thing that can happen, right? Is they
Yeah.
talk some shit, or they don't give you the time of day. But the worst thing that happens if you don't even try is you essentially rejected yourself. You didn't give yourself an opportunity even to have a chance at doing
Yeah.
what you love and doing. You're really good at what you do, Aaron. Like I've seen your work on the video side. Like you crush those transitions, you crush the frames. You're good
Mm-hmm.
at coloring. You're good at storytelling. How did you develop that skill? I think you went through the property videographer, right?
Yeah.
Or is that
Yeah.
that's
Daniel Bertolo. Mm-hmm.
yeah? What did
Yeah.
you learn? What did you learn there and how did it help you like level up your video?
Just the mindset of how a video shoot should go. Daniel did a really good job in um just kind of like making you understand that like you don't have to overshoot to have a really good property tour. It was really just taking a lot of his methods that he used to simplify everything and just make it easier. And I think that was an approach I never had before, where I felt like I had to shoot every single detail.
Yeah.
Um, and just yesterday, I had a 7,000 square foot home or wherever it was. I, it felt so easy because I knew what I needed to do to um, get every single room and make sure I got every single angle. And it takes maybe 3-4 minutes per room, and you know doing the other things like speed ramps and everything. So you do have to think through some of your shots, but I mean that's part of growing. You're not going to know exactly what to do right off the rip, but just getting better and better over time. And then the
And
other
do you,
thing
do
too.
you do your own editing?
Good.
Like, do you do
Yeah, I do.
your own?
I'm trying to. So this is the problem with like being your own editor is you got to be very disciplined in the sense that like you're going to edit late into the night. If not, you're going to wake up super early and edit into the morning into your first shoot or whatever. But um, I'm I'm kind of backing off on that a little bit. I would rather be able to have a longevity with my work and not always have to edit every single property. Um, so that's where I'm at. In fact, I had a really cool moment this week. I was able to work with my editor while he was up, so I stayed up until probably like 5 in the morning the other night, just training him how to color, how to edit, and just really working through some of his inabilities, I guess, through editing. So it pays off to not only know how to edit, but also being able to teach other people how to edit. So you're not having to do double the work. You can just shoot and keep the train rolling.
For sure. And are you editing on Final Cut or DaVinci or Premiere?
Final Cut. Yep, just Final
Why
Cut.
why Final Cut? Like, did you switch to Final Cut, or have you always been a Final Cut guy?
Yeah, you know what? I started off when I first got into doing videos through Final Cut. Then I switched to Premiere, and then I switched back to Final Cut. And the reason why, and this is, I think it's very well known, if you really want that smooth, buttery speed ramp, there's an effect that only can be pulled off through Final Cut. At least for what I know, I'm not entirely sure if there's something else that is close to what Final Cut can do, but the motion blur is a huge reason why I switched over to Final Cut, and then being able to have plugins through like motion VFX, and other things like that that really help give you a solid edit.
And your editor, is he overseas and he's
Mhm.
working on a Mac, because only Macs can run Final Cut, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's an Apple only program. Actually, I went out and bought both him and I through the license. I could get one, he can get the other, and him and I have a particular suite of plugins. So if I can use it, he can use it, and then I can show him how to go about and do a particular thing that I want him to do. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, does gear matter, and to what extent? And how do you balance between investing in gear and investing in knowledge and skills?
I used to invest into a lot of gear. In fact, I had my wife remind me of this last night. I saw the new Ronin 4 gimbal, and I just got a new contract with some adrenaline entertainment company where they do like go karts and whatnot. So I had to go out and get like an FPV drone to achieve some particular shots. But she was like, "You don't need that gimbal; just use the one you have." I was like, "Sure." So,
But you're
but yeah,
right, right?
yeah, she's right. She's right. So it saved us, $600 or whatever. But I used to always annually upgrade lenses and camera bodies whenever the new Sony A7 series came out. I don't do that anymore because unless it breaks, then obviously you have to replace it. But if you're buying the new camera, you're not only are you going to have to relearn everything because each camera has particular settings that you have to get used to, especially with video. I had my Sony A7 III for about 2 years before I finally understood how to properly expose video on it. And it was one of those like, oh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. So, yeah,
How
it's
did you learn that you were doing it wrong though?
um. So I was shooting S log wrong. So you have to overexpose it. I didn't know that. I just thought you shot it even on the meter. So I was always wondering like why are my shadows like always coming out so weird. Anyways, uh that's when I learned, and it was actually also through a YouTube video that I watched on how to properly expose, and it was just by chance I saw it. So that helped me out a lot.
Yeah. How do you measure your investments on the other side? Like gear, like it makes sense. You buy gear, you use it,
Yeah.
you get a good life out of it. You don't just upgrade every year. You try to like what do you think is a good cadence every 3 years?
As far as like gear,
Like upgrading lenses, bodies.
oh, I mean glass is forever.
Yeah,
So once you buy the glass, you don't really need to upgrade that. But the body, I would say like every 5 years, because 4K technology. I mean, most people still watch things on 1080p on their phone, and they don't
that's
even
what I'm
realize
saying.
it.
Like some
So
people
why?
like if you
Yeah,
don't have a good connection, you're streaming 720. You can't see any of the details.
no, no,
And are the clients paying for the details? I think when we first started, we were shooting in 4K. And I told my partner, I was just like, dude, no, none of our clients give a fuck that it's in 4K.
no.
We can shoot 1080p. And we went back to 1080p and we just said, yeah, we're shooting HD. And no one ever asked, is this going to be in 4K? Maybe like one out of every like 500 clients were like, this is 4K, right? Like
Yeah,
no one cares as long as it looks good.
yeah,
And most people are watching, if you send them their deliverable, they're watching it on their phone, they're on the go, right? And so if it
mhm,
streams, heck, if you upload it in 4K, sometimes it streams terribly because it's like buffering and it's like downscaling versus if you just shot it in 1080p and it just streams out of the box nicely.
yeah. I think as far as like what I value in a camera, as long as it can shoot 8-bit, the bare minimum, like that's fine. But if
So
you
what's
want like,
if you were to buy a new camera right now and you had like a budget, a realistic budget, right? Like maybe under 5K, what would you buy right now?
uh, there was a new camera. It's not new. It's the SX1. I forget who's by. Um, but it shoots 6K open gate, and you can use it for horizontal
Black
purposes. And
Magic, right?
huh?
The Black Magic
No, it's Lumix.
Lumix.
Lumix. It's a S1X. Um, I would say that would be a perfect option. It's $1,000 cheaper than the A7S III. Similar results. The only thing that you don't have on that camera is like 4K 120, but I've never used that
Yeah.
except for maybe once. So, but yeah, if I had to redo my gear, I would definitely probably gotten with something that was a little bit cheaper in that regard. But I can't complain with the S3 that I have with Sony. But
The S3
yeah,
is a workhorse. I think that's we
oh
have we
yeah,
have a bunch of those, and it's we replaced our. We had some expensive like Sony FS7 Mark twos like that were
hmm,
just like it's so big that no one enjoys even building it. Like you gotta like put it away and then build the rig even
right.
like each time, and it's just not worth it.
The reason why I would say pick that camera over all the others is because you don't have to it like especially with the age of having both horizontal and vertical content for real estate or whatever. This camera in particular, it can shoot 6K open gate, and then out of that, you can squeeze vertical format out of it really well in 4K. So you're
Yeah,
you're not having to sacrifice a whole lot of quality. And
yeah. That
SSD
sounds
drives. That's the other part of it. You have to have like a little SD drive with it, but those are pretty cheap. So the setup is simplified, and you're not having to worry about if the client wants one or the other. You can do both easily.
nice. That makes a lot of sense. That's good to
Yeah,
know. You're way more technical than me.
I am.
Uh, when it comes to investing in gear versus like your education, how have you approached the latter? Because I know you went through a few programs and currently
Yeah.
you're invested in with ACRE Partner. Like, how do you go about justifying the investment, and how do you see the ROI playing out for you?
Yeah, as far as education versus gear, I've scaled back significantly on gear, and invest into more of education because I want to be able to learn more on the business side, and most importantly learn on, different techniques and strategies. That's really what you're paying for, is how do you become a better person, how do you become a better business person. And through Acre Partner, not only am I, you know, learning from you, but we're learning from so many other people. When I didn't even know this when I was talking to you, but knowing that now that vast media, like I grew up, I not grew up. When I first started my business, I was idolizing them because I thought they did everything tremendously. So that now that I'm able to talk to Jenna and be able to like pick her brain every once in a while, if I have something that comes up like that, like the way that you can leverage that is insane now. So, yeah, I find education to be, it should be your first thing to do every single year. You should be able to invest, even if it costs $4,000 or $5,000. I mean, when I invested into Danny's course, it was about $4,000, and it was learning how to be a better videographer as well as being an editor. And that has now given me the ability to stop charging $300 videos. Now I can charge $1,000 because the quality is there, and people now expect it, and they want that.
That's awesome. What are some of the gold nuggets that you could share? I know you paid a lot for this education, but for those who made it to the end of this podcast and are looking to follow Aaron Hand on social media and Space Coast Media Solutions, like what are some of these knowledge bombs that you can share now that you've invested in education for yourself?
Uh, as far as video or just everything in
Just drop
general?
us three gold nuggets.
It's not the speed ramp. So stop asking what is the speed ramp. Don't, that's not the big thing. It's learning how to be more technical with your shoot. And the other part is with business, your mindset should be, uh, what can I do today that's going to pay off, not tomorrow, but the next month? That's what I've learned. And um, I think the other thing that I've learned is just being able to be open and ask questions, with other industry leaders like Brendan here. Uh, like
There's one
I
hack that blew you away. I remember last time we spoke, being able to like I'll let you finish the sentence, right?
yeah,
But there's nothing wrong with discounting. Why?
because it gets you in the door. Well, it gets you the ability to work with the person, and then they get to see the value in what you offer, right?
You can also trade the discount for a favor. Remember?
Yes. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, no. That was something that blew my mind. Oh yeah, forget what I was gonna say. Asking for favors for connections, like that is such a huge like mind shift of, yeah, okay, you want $100 off your next shoot, okay, here, realtor, I need this from you. If you can do this, I'll do this for you. I never thought of that, so I started doing that, and lo and behold, it works.
Yeah. So
So
that's just like like it's just learning how to. It's like chess, right? Sometimes you
yeah.
move pieces and you're very calculated with like making trades. And I'm not the best chess player, but I know like I just watched the Queen's Gambit, and sometimes you sacrifice the queen and you win the game, right? Or you
Mhm.
sacrifice like a big piece. And it's okay to make that big sacrifice when it comes to like, oh yeah, I can give you 50% off. Introduce
Mhm.
me to your broker and get me a brokerage meeting,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
leveraging, yeah, leveraging that kind of,
and it can go both ways, right?
Right.
You can do it before the ask, you can do it after the ask. If they're asking you for a discount, like now you're like, okay, sure, like I
Mm-hmm.
can do that. Can you jump through these hoops to make it happen? Can you return the favor? And then you can do it beforehand as well. You're like, hey, I don't really do this for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but since you're a broker, I would love to work with, and I'd love to help you build a great, marketing offering this year for agents. I can give you $1,000 credit for you as a brokerage, for you as a broker, so you can look good to your top agents, and you can give each one of those top agents a $350 credit with me.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden that broker is selling for you, but you've armed them with something that makes them feel like they're winning,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that they're winning, and you're winning in the process, because if you're able to land the business of someone who does 10 listings a year, that's going to spend $1,000 with you per listing, what is $350? You just gave them
Right.
like 3.5% off.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, like learning those hacks, mind shift sets, where you want to call it, that has been just it literally blew my mind when I was texting you the other day when you said that. I was like, oh my gosh. Now I don't have to feel so on the defense of like when someone asked me for a discount, because part of me was like, you son of a gun, why are you asking? No, I'm worth $500. I'm not worth 350. Get the heck out of here.
But
No,
now you
now
can be like,
it's
yeah, I'm worth
working.
300 if you put in two hundred
Yeah,
dollars worth of work.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wish I would. I'll tell you what, I would be so much farther if I would have known that about 4 years ago,
yeah, because
maybe 3 years ago.
every one of those price conversations could have been
Yes,
a business expansion
and I can
conversation.
tell you every single one of them was, how about we work together a little bit more before you start asking for discounts? And I just shot them down instead of utilizing that eagerness to work with me to get them to have them bring more people to my business and get that discount, and then we both win. So yeah,
Exactly.
invest in education, and most importantly, get ACRE partner if you're a real estate media person.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So I guess to end this off, what is one life lesson that doesn't have to be business lesson that you've learned in your journey? Being a husband, being a son, being a good person, being a man of faith. What is something that you would want to pass off a lesson to the next generation of people?
Jesus is the real deal, man. I don't know if you're a man of faith, but I believe that with God, all things are possible. And not only is it good to know that you have an ally, who um, gives you direction, I'll kind of keep it brief. I don't want to get too religious or
It's
whatnot.
all
But
good.
for me,
Love
yeah, no, I believe that my faith is something that I will always share. I think it's eternal in the sense of what we are meant to be. We're eternal creatures. We're meant to. This is just, we're passing this world through. It's a life lesson in the mix, and most importantly, we get to be able to tell people about Jesus. And if we come to believe and know Him as our Lord and Savior, dude, you're gonna have eternal life forever and ever. That's the promise. It's a gift that's freely given, and outside of business and outside of everything else, that's what I would say is most important to me. Yes, I think
Yeah.
it's good to be a baller and have a good business and be a legacy maker, like I said earlier, and be unashamed about making as much as you can, right? Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's bigger things in the ethos of what we have to live for, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And if anyone is interested in that, let me know. I'll call you.
I love it because I'm not personally super religious. I do
Yeah.
believe there's a higher power, but I
Mhm.
believed in every word you said just then because you lit up when I asked you that. You're like, Jesus, man, you gotta believe. Like
Yeah.
God is amazing. So I love that you have that like belief to guide you in life. Like I think that's really
Yeah.
powerful. I think everyone needs some version of that. You know, whether it's a mentor, whether it's God, whether it's a big
Right.
brother who's looking out for you, like
Yeah.
having or even being your own best friend, right? Like you need to have someone where you think about them, you think about what they might do, and you light up. You're like, I know what I need to do because like
Yeah.
you lit up when I asked you like
Yeah.
for like something you wanted to pass forward. And you're like that's I think that that itself like says everything when you have that energy and belief, and there was zero hesitation when I asked you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man, just going through everything I've gone through with my dad and whatnot, I get chills just thinking about it. But the way that God had my family's back during that time, and not only did God have me in the worst moments of my life, you know, coming home, I'll just give you a brief description of like how God truly is a true God. You know, I looked my dad in his eyes when he was on his deathbed the night before he passed away. I didn't realize he was going to pass away the next morning, and I told him, I said, "Hey, Dad, um, I'm gonna take care of Mom. Don't worry. Um, I'll be there for Mom. Don't worry." And he passes away. I spend the rest of my money on my bank account, more so than what I had, and I get home, negative $1,000. I'm feeling like the biggest failure, and I just felt like God was just like, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna turn everything beautiful, and that's the ultimate message: is that we have a friend that we can rely on. He works for us, and most importantly, our backs are covered, man. And the bigger picture, yes, we have eternity, but here in life, like that's what's so good about having God on your side, and it's a true relationship, and it's not just like he's up there, I'm down here, a million miles away. No, he's in the midst of our life, and that's my testimony, and I think that's so cool that God not only ultimately you know gave me the ability to change things around, but he more than likely he gave me access to you at one point. Maybe he said, "Hey, reach out to Brendan. He's got things figured out," and that's kind of what happened.
So,
I always think that things happen for a reason. It's a learning
yeah.
moment.
Well, it's been a privilege to serve you, Aaron. Like you're
Yeah, man.
someone who came in with a lot of humility, with a lot of
Yeah,
open mindedness to learn. And I know
yeah,
we recently went through an obstacle of like you weren't showing up in the way, and I was able to get you back on track. And I'm excited to see
yeah,
more of you present, asking questions in the community. And you already know, like your weakness is you talk too much. So just give it a priority and focus to ask more questions, and you shall
yeah.
receive. Right?
I think what was so cool is like I just texted you the other day. I was like, Brendan, I got nothing going on today. What should I do? And you gave me like a whole list of things to do. I did half of it, just so you know. So we're getting there to where I
Now the
can.
other half to finish after this
Yeah,
talk.
right. This weekend, I have my eyes set on and just really diving full fledged
Awesome.
into the material you gave me.
Well,
So
you pretty much have unlimited access to us.
yeah, man.
Any questions, no question will ever go unanswered. And if it does, it's an accident, you can hold me accountable to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
You're like,
Well, I
hey, dude, I
appreciate
need an
you.
answer.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you inviting me out and just being able to share what
Yeah.
makes what makes me Aaron and how I click.
Yeah. I think it's a important message because like everyone's always just like, oh, you have to be the best at everything. No, like you just got to be a player who's willing to be part of that journey and
Yeah.
love that process. I think what is so beautiful about like what you shared today is everything that you've gone through, we all go through at some point in life.
Mm,
And having someone else that's gone through it that can empathize and be compassionate and also be able to share, things that has helped them in the process. I think that is all that we can do. And you've done
mm.
everything in your power to give life your all, and you continue doing so. And I see that every day. And so excited to keep growing with you, brother.
Yep. Appreciate you, man.